Happy New Year! Feliz 2021! E você que quer um 2021 diferente, o Cambly tem um super desconto. Até o dia 15 de janeiro de 2021, você pode aproveitar um super desconto de 47% nos planos anuais. É maravilhoso isso. Então, assim, nesse mês, nós vamos abordar, né? Nós, quando eu falo nós, é o Cambly, porque eu tô aqui falando por eles. Nós vamos abordar os objetivos profissionais que podem ser alcançados com o Cambly. Então, sim, seja um novo emprego, entrevista de emprego, encontrar emprego fora do Brasil, mudança de salário. Então, assim, o Cambly tá aqui para te ajudar com isso. Você que tá esperando uma boa motivação para começar o ano com o pé direito, aqui tá tudo o que você precisa saber. O Cambly é uma plataforma de ensino personalidade em inglês, né? Oferece aulas particulares para adultos de todas as idades e para crianças e jovens entre 3 a 15 anos de idade. Te dá acesso a milhares de tutores nativos e você pode escolher um ou vários, ou seja, você pode testar vários até achar o seu um. Todos eles são nativos da língua inglesa, então você também pode escolher um sotaque que você prefira, tá bom? Eles estão online 24 horas por dia, então não tem desculpa. Tem um tempinho, vai lá e aproveita. Então, gente, 47% em todos os planos anuais, agora é a hora. Happy 2021 e Cambly!
Hello, hey sweet people, welcome to another episode of Inglês no Rádio. My name is Foster, and as always, I am here with the one, the only, the lovely, wonderful, magnificent, the...
Alexia Souza, or Alexia Souza.
Okay. Hey, Alexia, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. What about you, Foster?
I cannot complain. Doing well. It's very cold. My little hands and my ears are cold. But having good conversations always makes me a little bit warmer.
Yes, it's true. It's been really cold around here in Portugal, especially these days because of Depressão Bela and now Depressão Filomena. It's really weird.
Yeah, I think we would say, I don't know how we would say depressão in that word. I think you can say like a climate depression?
In Brazil, we call it frente fria.
A cold front.
Yes.
Yes. That's the way we say it in English, a cold front.
Yes.
So there is a cold front coming through.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, we wake up with minus 3 degrees. And it's horrible, but that's fine. During the day, it's 8-10 degrees Celsius. And sunny all day. It's good.
Mm-hmm. Can we try one thing? -3.
-3.
Okay, so
minus.
Minus. So this is the sound,
Us.
the schwa sound.
Like us.
Mm-hmm. Like mine, yours and mine, and then us.
Minus
3 degrees Celsius. Okay.
Let's do it. -3 degrees Celsius.
Yes. And the common tendency for most Brazilians and Portuguese speakers is to replace that sound with an u sound and say minus.
Yeah.
This is an English show. That is free information we are giving. Woo, woo.
Woohoo!
Okay,
so last episode, we were talking about your residency visa.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And all the things that were happening between July and August of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so you got your visa approved.
Yeah. Just to clarify a bit, the idea that Alexia and I had last week was to record a short kind of retrospective of 2020, a year in review, if you will. And this has transformed into a lot of episodes. This is episode number 6, part 6. So if you are just listening to us now for the first time, we recommend starting with part 1.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so we ended in July, I believe. July, August. Maybe August. I don't know. But I just got my residency visa approved, which means I, in theory, was allowed to travel to Portugal and be together with Alexia again after 6 months.
Yeah, not in theory. You were able to do that. Like by law, you were free to come.
Yes.
That's it.
But
but we are in the middle of a pandemic, right? And for anyone, resident or citizen, to fly anywhere, most of anywhere, most places, you need to have the PCR test, right?
Yes.
To prove that you don't have COVID. But each place is different than the other. For example, I know that somewhere in Africa, they ask for 4 days PCR. Here in Portugal is 72 hours PCR test and written negative. And then Foster was in the middle of this process to come here.
Yeah. So a couple of important things. The PCR COVID test is like the most official, the most detailed COVID test that you can get. And when Alexia says 72 hours, that means that you have to present a negative COVID PCR test, and you have to take that test 72 hours before the time of departure.
Not to take the test, but the results have to be 72 hours before.
No.
No? See, that's why it's so complicated, you guys.
Yes. So you can imagine, at least in the US, I imagine in Brazil, this is also quite complicated. In the US, especially in South Carolina, where I was living at the time, it was very, very difficult, almost impossible to receive test results in less than 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the time, I was taking COVID tests, trying to find a place that could get these results to me fast. Sometimes they were taking 9 days, 11 days, and I had 3 days. So that was problematic. So my idea was, okay, starting 72 hours before, I'm going to take as many COVID tests as possible, and hopefully one of those results will come back in less than 72 hours.
Would come back in time, right? You can say that as well.
You could say come back in time. And it was a huge pain in the ass. I was traveling all over the city, different cities. I had to pay a lot of money to get like private expedited COVID test. And I was traveling to the airport.
Yeah, you were going to the airport with your mom inside the car to Charlotte, because it would be the same thing. Charlotte, New Jersey, Lisbon, and then Porto.
Yeah, so I believe I had taken 6 tests, and 2 of the tests I took before 72 hours. So I imagine they were probably going to have some problems and say like, hey, this is actually like 80 hours before. But I decided, okay, I'm still going to go to the airport, and hopefully sometime during this day, I'm going to receive a COVID test that is more recent. And I was literally like 5 minutes away from the airport.
You called me.
Well, first, I received a phone call, and I was like, yes, the doctor is calling me, telling my test results arrived. And the doctor called me and said, yes, we have your COVID test results, and you are positive for COVID-19. So naturally, like following all of the quarantine procedures, it's difficult for me to talk about this because it was a very dramatic and traumatic time. So I was in the car with my mom, and I just put my mask on while I was talking on the phone and just gave my mom a little signal, like, turn around, and then hung up the phone and was like, they said I had COVID and we got to turn around. And my mom was like, what are you talking about? Like, you tested negative 3 times already. And yeah, it was a disaster.
Yeah. And then from my point of view, Foster called me and I was like, oh, did you get to the airport? It was the first question, like, did you get there? And then he was like, no. And I was like, what? Traffic? What happened? And then he said, I'm positive for Corona. And I was like, Foster, stop joking. This is not the time to make jokes. It was like, still now, I was hoping that he would make a surprise and appear here because I still can't believe that he was positive. And then...
And keep in mind, the first time I tried to travel to Portugal, I had to call Alexia from New Jersey and say, hey, they won't let me on the plane. And you were like, stop, get out of here. And then the second time I call and say, hey, I just tested positive for COVID-19. I'm turning around, going back home.
Yeah.
It seems like a joke, but not a joke.
Yeah. And then Foster went on quarantine and stayed away from his family. And then he started to get the other results, right? Mm-hmm. And just to be clear here, with this positive test, he wouldn't be able to travel at all because all the other tests that he got, it was what?
All the other test
results. That's why, yeah. All the other test results that he got, it was already like during the time that he would have to be traveling.
Yeah.
So remember that you got those like quite late. You wouldn't be able to travel at all. And
with one positive test result, I was not going to travel, obviously.
No, not at all. But then we discovered that it was a false positive.
Yeah.
And then he could go back home to his parents' home, at least.
That is the only conclusion that I can come to. False positives are extremely rare, apparently. So I do not encourage people to think, oh, I got a positive COVID test. I don't have COVID because false positives are a thing. But I took 9 COVID tests in total, all at the same time. 8 were negative. 1 came back positive. After that, I took more just to be super sure that I was not going to get my family sick. And yeah, I don't think I ever had COVID.
And just to be clear, every time that Foster would be coming here to Portugal, we would get an Airbnb for my dad, for example, because we were taking so many precautions. So my dad, he's on the high risk.
Yeah, I would say he's at high risk for COVID or he's in a high risk category.
Yeah, so we would find an Airbnb around here that would be like cheap, but at the same time he would be comfortable. So Foster could come here and then take a test here, and then my dad could come back to the apartment with us. So it was like a huge logistic situation twice already that...
I think I would say a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, a logistical nightmare. And the first time that Foster was coming here and Tapi said that he couldn't travel, my dad was already in the apartment, the other Airbnb. And I was here all by myself without Buddy at that time. And I was like crying so much. And I'm almost crying right now.
But that is the last piece of bad news from this year, at least personally in our lives. And it's definitely the reason why we have Buddy. So some good things came out of that, but after many, many times trying, after many times going to the airport, not succeeding, everything ended up okay at the end of the day.
Yeah, and if you think about what we always say, like, keep up the good work and lose well, this applies so much.
Yeah.
And lose well is amazing for these moments.
Technically, we say keep up the good fight
Yeah.
and lose well. And if anything, in 2020, we did a lot of fighting and a lot of losing. But in part 7 of our year in review, we will talk about some of the good things. Since then, we have been here in Portugal, and
Life's good.
yeah, life is
Life is good. We can't complain about that. Finally, we are together. We have our dog, and we can talk about the good things in the next episode. But I would like to end this episode of bad news or bad situations that I don't know what the other person is going through. I have no idea what kind of fight they are fighting. So sometimes I would appear at our co-working in the middle of all this situation, and I would have to smile and say, hey guys, how are y'all? Yeah, Foster is still in the United States, and he had no idea what was going on. So we never know what's the other side. So let's treat each other like we deserve, because we are a community. Humanity is a community, and we forget about it.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful message to end on, but I would be mistaken if I did not give you a quick correction. So you say you never know what the other person is fighting. In this case, you would just say, we never know what other people, because we're not talking about a specific person. We're talking about people in general. So people are fighting battles that we know nothing about. So give people the benefit of the doubt. Treat people with kindness. And as always, keep up the good fight.
And lose well. Bye! Muito obrigada por ter escutado mais um episódio aqui do Inglês de Rádio. É muito bom ter você juntinho assim de nós. Faz muito, muito carinho no nosso coração, digamos assim. Então você que está interessado em saber mais sobre os nossos produtos e saber mais sobre a gente, o que a gente oferece para vocês em relação a estudo, a challenge, a curso, vá lá no inglesdenecru.com e você pode ver mais sobre as worksheets, por exemplo.
Yeah. If you want to really improve your English, if you want to learn more about the ways you can do that and just connect with us on a deeper level, go to inglesdenecru.com. And as always, keep up the good fight.
And lose well.
See you guys tomorrow.
Bye.